Hey everyone, I'm Brandon, and welcome to another episode of Anti-Matters. Here on Anti-Matters, we pride ourselves on objectivity and attempt to unravel this knot that is our current political environment. On today's episode, Label Me Not, we're going to discuss the recent presidential campaigns and their successful use of labels, mainly because it's such an ongoing divisive mechanism. During these campaigns, both Republican and Democratic candidates were able to successfully use labeling to drive a wedge in the middle and push voters to take a side. This tactic was incredibly successful. It incited further divide on partisan issues and turned the middle ground into this like DMZ where there was little tolerance for those who didn't choose a side. How did this happen? Why was it so successful? Well, give me a second and I'll explain it to you. First, we have to analyze the individual candidates and their respective party dynamics during the primaries, and both primaries and national campaigns really. So let's take a look at the Democratic Party first and their environment. So running for president was Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Bernie took a far left stance right off the bat and forced Hillary to take a more moderate stance. This dynamic left Democratic voters in a mess when it came to the primaries because Sanders supporters felt that Hillary wasn't progressive enough. Another part of the Democratic demographic was constituents that remembered the Bill Clinton presidency and the baggage and scandal that came with it. This put many Democratic supporters in a pickle when it came to deciding who they wanted to run for president. Hillary was able to capitalize on the moderate constituency by labeling Trump a misogynist, a bigot, a racist, and a xenophobe, and his supporters as trumpets through her proxies in the media and Democratic leaders in the government. These labels immediately pit Democrats, both Sanders supporters and establishment types, against Republicans. It increased the size of that DMZ, and it allowed Hillary to bring her party together. On the other side of the aisle, Trump was able to diminish the importance and views of other Republican primary candidates by tacking on those labels that we all saw to just about everyone who ran against him, from Little Marco to Lyin' Ted, and then again in the presidential campaign with the Crooked Hillary. This tactic was incredibly successful there and caused a similar problem for Republican constituents. The Republican primaries left their supporters in a pickle as well. Most Republican establishment leaders felt that Trump wasn't a serious Republican, while those who took a more moderate view of the party felt that Trump was more of an entertainer than a real serious political candidate. So Trump used this labeling to generate media attention, controversy, and disruption in the moderate middle, further widening that gap. So why do we care about this, and what does it do to us, all these labels? Well, the answer is rather simple when looking at Americans as a single entity rather than a partisan powder keg. I think about it this way. Do you fit the exact definition of a Republican or a Democrat? I'm betting that you don't agree with every single issue on your party side. As a matter of fact, if you do, you are probably a very select few. But for the majority, the lines aren't so clear, and yet the middle ground continues to shrink regardless. Why is this? Well, it's a real problem, and it lies in the daily use of labeling in the media. On just about every political outlet, you will hear labels like alt-right and snowflake, effectively grouping Americans into large categories and damning anyone with views somewhere in between. The labeling is destroying the conversation and diluting the important facts on both sides. It takes away any and all respectable argument and places an irrevocable period at the end of an unfinished sentence. For example, let's just say we are having a conversation about public education, and I happen to attend a private school. You may label me privileged, and therefore my view on matters of education is no longer valid, regardless of my point of view or intellectual arguments that I may have, effectively denying me or anyone like me an opinion on the topic. This is incredibly dangerous, especially when discussing issues that affect all of us in the form of national policy, because that's what we're voting here for. So just remember to look for it in the media, in your daily conversations, and in your own political arguments. Calling someone a racist because they support immigration reform or a misogynist because they are pro-choice will never solve anything. However, having a grown-up conversation and listening to the other side will allow us as Americans to begin deciding our own fate. So just remember, in our everyday lives. So if you like what I had to say here, leave a comment or ask a question, and maybe you'll be featured on one of our episodes. And if you really like it, then subscribe. If you like what I have to say, check out the Inquisitive Veterans channel linked in the comment section of this video, and maybe you'll find something more to enjoy. I hope you enjoy this episode of Anti Matters. We'll see you next time.